Today we're going to show you how to wrap the Raptor big fender trim. This finish is kind of a gray, unfinished look. We have a neat kit that's going to dress this up quite a bit. First thing you're going to need to do is to kind of get it ready for the graphic itself. So the first thing that you're going to do is really clean off the area. What's critical in any graphic application is to remove any dirt, any particles that might come trickling down into your laminate. You want to kind of anticipate where dirt might come from. You also want to have nice clean hands, and then you can go ahead and get started. Now, we like to use either an alcohol or a general purpose adhesive cleaner, prep solvent, to kind of wipe down the fender, make sure that there's no waxes or silicones or anything like that, paint sealants, things of that nature. And you want to make sure that's all clean all the way underneath, inside the fender trim. And once you're pretty confident that that's all done, now you can set it up for actual installation. Now, this particular fender trim is kind of snapped onto the body, and we don't want to remove it from the truck. We're going to actually ask the truck to help us hold it in place while we apply our graphic, wrap our fender trim, and kind of push it back into position on the truck. That's what's going to make this job a little bit easier. You know, we probably would recommend that you go to a professional wrapper to get the best results, but if you're handy at all, you can definitely go through this as I'll show you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use a kind of fancy little tool here. This is fancy, but it's very common. Most auto parts stores has this, AutoZone, different type of auto parts stores, and they're about maybe $7-10 like that. Very cool tool to have in your toolbox. So you know, if you can, go ahead and pick one of these up. You'll notice that underneath the fender trim, you're going to have these little push-in retainers like so. So what you're going to do is just kind of work this in the head of those retainers and kind of pull those out. And what this is going to do isn't going to release the trim from the car, but it's going to loosen it up so that we can kind of pull it out from the body a little bit and put in our spacers. That's going to allow us to wrap around the fender trim and snap it back into position. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of get the rest of these out. There's one in the bottom here, and we've kind of started that a little bit, but you just got to pull this out. Once those are out, you know, this is going to be relatively loose. There's also another little guy in here. This almost certainly will stay stuck to the body. You want to take that one out, keep it off out of the equation for right now. When we go to put everything back in together, we'll slide it into the slot in here where that belongs. So we're just going to go in here and pull that out. Okay. Where'd that go? All right. Okay, so you got a handful of retainers that you're going to remove from the fender trim. Now with this loose like this, your kit's going to come with little batches, squeegee spacers. So what you're going to do is, if you notice, the fender is kind of snapped in with these little retainers periodically. So what we're going to do is slip this in between those retainers so as to lift the fender trim away from the body. They fall out like that, it's no problem. That's what you want. You want space between here. We're going to go ahead and just space this out. Okay, so now we have some pretty good clearance here. We'll be able to tuck our trim in over around the top, flatten it out, and then press it back into the truck. Your kit's going to come with packet of adhesive promoter. This is not a cleaner, but is an adhesive accelerator. And what we're going to apply this is right along this inner rim here only. You don't want to put it on the face. Not necessary to put around the top of the edge. Just in here on the bottom, what you'll want to do is put the adhesive promoter around this edge, all around the bottom, because our graphic is going to fold over in like this, and it's going to seal in here nice and tight. So we've already gone and prepped all this with the adhesive promoters, so now we're ready to put the graphic on. Okay, this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting on a really nice finished carbon fiber wrap material. You'll notice that the shape has a couple little cutouts in it. This is going to help you align this wrap onto the fender trim so that you can very easily kind of float it across and squeeze it down. One of the critical areas is to start it right at the bottom in this area. This is what's going to give you your correct position. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. I'll show you. Now you'll notice that the shape of this is going to match your fender trim, this shape right here. And you're going to want to put these corners right at the corner here. So this little flap that you have is going to be enough to wrap over. It's pretty easy to do. And you're not going to do this part, you're not going to wrap this around just yet. What we're going to do is just set the graphic into that area. Okay. And that's going to give us our starting point, just like that. Now, if you look at this wrap material, you'll see a very special pattern on the back of it. And this is what makes it wrap material. What this pattern of adhesive does is it allows the air to press out as you're squeezing it down, and it really works very well not to trap any air bubbles. It also helps for the material to shrink and stretch as you need it. So you're going to find that the material itself is very easy to apply. Once you get your starting point like this, the key for this is to stretch your graphic around, okay, while maintaining the same amount of space. This is about 3/8 of an inch of space. So as you're laying it, you just want to periodically check, make sure your space is about the same. If it goes off a little bit, no big deal. You have a little bit extra material to work with, but that's generally the idea. You want to just maintain that same amount of space. So we'll go ahead and do that. And the graphic itself, the material itself, is very, very strong. So you don't have to really be too concerned about possibly tearing it. I mean, obviously you want to be a little careful, but you don't have to worry about if you need to pull it up and reset it. The material is really designed to allow you to do that. So you want to just keep checking. This is kind of like, it's getting a little thin here. So you just want to just kind of like pull it. Now what we're doing by maintaining this is we're stretching this outer area, and that's what's going to allow us to cover this real nicely. So you can see it stretches on real nice, and then you have that extra material that will wrap over later. So what we're going to do is just kind of continue this. And remember, don't be afraid of lifting it and reset it. It's perfectly designed for that. We have our center mark here, and that's how you can check how you're doing. By the time you get to the very top of the fender trim, your fender should be right at that corner there, and that's how you'll know that you've been doing it correctly. You can see I'm not really going through a lot of terrible effort here, so I'm pretty confident that just about anybody, if you have your little handy, you can do this. There are a couple of tricks to deal with when you do end up with trapped air bubbles. You can't get them squeegeed out. And there are a couple of tricks if we should encounter a crease. This material is really lends itself to laying on nicely without creasing, but if you get one, we'll show you what to do with that. Okay, so we're just about right, a little bit over, but we have plenty of material. So now what we're going to do is just kind of stretch this just like so. And work it right into our edge. Now, when you get a little air bubble like this, and you really don't want to go back and lift it just to get those, you can just put a tiny little weep hole in here and press that out just like so. Okay. We're going to go ahead and continue to finish the wrap. Maintaining our space. Now, as I'm going across the fender trim, you know, I'm pulling this. I'm pulling this so that this area will stretch out and allow you to actually squeeze it like this. And like I said, the material is very thick, very durable, and it will allow you to manhandle it a little bit. So you can check, we're doing pretty good. We're just gonna go ahead and get the rest of this down like that. Now, you'll notice that by the time we got to the other end, we've actually stretch this, gosh, almost about an inch. Just no big deal. What you're gonna do is just kind of trim this excess off and kind of notch that out just the way we did it, so that you can wrap it underneath and we'll get a nice result. Now we're going to bring in the heat gun, show you how to do the rest of this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and wrap our top edge. It's a pretty easy thing to do. What's going to help you greatly is use a hair dryer or a heat gun like this one. And what we're going to want to do is just soften the vinyl so as to allow it to stretch it and tuck over to the other side. Now, you don't want to get this too hot where it's going to melt and distort. You just want to warm it up. So we're going to go ahead and do that. This will allow you to really kind of fold it nicely and just kind of tuck it right around like that. Now, the adhesive promoter that we put along this bottom edge and this inner edge is really what's going to lock this vinyl on. Without adhesive promoter, over time, the expansion and contraction of this plastic part is going to work against the adhesive, and it could have a tendency for the wrap to kind of pop off. using adhesive promoter is going to prevent that. So make sure you put that on all these crucial areas. Now, what we're going to do is squeegee by squeegee. We're going to go ahead and tuck this under. Just like so. Gets a little tough, just move your squeegee up so you can get some room to work with. If it gets stuck onto the fender, doesn't allow it to wrap, just loosen it up like so, so you're not working against its own adhesive. If you want to, you could trim it a little bit better, but most of the time it's not necessary. You want to hit this ridge pretty hard with your squeegee. You don't want to leave any air bubbles in that spot, so just pay attention to that area. Okay, now what I'm going to do is set this bottom area. Remember, we kind of left that semi-loose. This takes a little bit of effort to kind of stretch it around because it's probably the most three-dimensional part of the whole lamination. So you're going to want to just kind of do this at this stage. Just soften it up. And stretch it around. And we'll and we've applied the adhesive promoter, you know, to all this inner edge, so it should fold over pretty nicely. And once you use that chemical, you can be relatively certain that you're not going to have any problems down the road. Okay. All right. Got a little bubble there. It's got a little bubble here. Okay, now go ahead and snap all this back in. Remember that little individual one we took out before? We're going to go ahead and just reinsert that into the fender. And then we're going to go ahead and aim these guys and snap this back in. Okay. Now you can go ahead and put all your inner ones in. And these will just push in just as easy as this. Okay. Now, I like to do that at this stage because it will allow us to, you know, it just kind of firms the fender up so we can go ahead and heat this up. You're going to want to, this has a little bit relief trim that you're probably going to want to put a couple more in here. Okay, now you soften this up. And this will allow you to really set a nice smooth edge with no wrinkles like so. See, you do it that way, it leaves you a nice, neat, finished edge. It's not going to have to go chasing after or trimming. Kind of inspect it. See one little dye here. And that's how you put in the ACC fender. See that it's takes that plain, unfinished, kind of like primer color to it, and it's a really cool new dynamic.